Hamas's top terrorist is dead. And have you seen what Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi Jinping are threatening? That's Topping the Hill on NewsNation tonight. "95 days from now, either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will have just put one hand on the Bible and raised the other, sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. Today's announcement from Israel that it's eliminated Hamas's top terrorist, a reminder of one tenuous global situation that could be before the next commander-in-chief. This is a presidential race where we have talked at length, time and time again, about the economy, inflation, housing, immigration, the border, abortion, democracy, you name it. Those are the issues. You know them. But tonight, terrorism and global hotspots front and center. Good evening and welcome to Washington. I'm Blake Berman. 377 days after the foreign terrorist organization Hamas executed a surprise attack on Israel, the mastermind of the horror, Yahya Sinwar, is dead, killed in Israel by troops there in a shootout in the key southern city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip. Besides being the architect for the October 7th attack, Sinwar also led Hamas's negotiations on the hostages. 4 Americans, remember, are still being held captive tonight. Top American officials, including the vice president, celebrating Israel's feat.
In the past year, American special operations and intelligence personnel have worked closely with their Israeli counterparts to locate and track Sinwar and other Hamas leaders.
But this is clearly a significant development and a major counterterrorism achievement.
Ambassador John Bolton is the former national security advisor in the Trump administration. He joins us live tonight here on the Hill. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us. I appreciate it, as always. I know that you know the global scene, but I just wanted to walk through for our audience real quick, sir, where we are all around the world tonight, and then we'll jump into it here, Mr. Ambassador. So this is the map. And this is just a few of the headlines from the last 24 hours. Of course, we know of Sinwar and the move from Israel earlier today. But we also learned within the last day or so that Israel is likely planning to retaliate against Iran, likely military sites. So that's just one story along that thread. Then there's the B-2 bombers who have launched a strike in Yemen. As you know, sir, there are the Houthis that they targeted, the Iranian proxies. B-2 stealth bombers going after a bunker, going after weapons there in Yemen just last night. There's also a report out today that North Korea could be sending some 10,000 troops to Russia or into Ukraine to help Russia with its war, with the war in the Russian-Ukraine war. So that's the past 24 hours, sir. And then in the past week, here's some of the headlines. The Chinese military, with its biggest provocations to date with Taiwan. They are ratcheting up their escalation there. Some folks think it's a matter of when and not if China moves in that direction. And then we saw the foiled Election Day terror plot, ISIS-K behind that. We know, sir, that ISIS-K was, the CIA was able to foil a plot with a Taylor Swift concert over in Europe. There's worries about ISIS-K in Afghanistan spreading in that nation. So, Mr. Ambassador, that is some of the world stage. Whoever is the next commander-in-chief, that's partly what they could be dealing with here in 95 days. Let's start with Sinwar, sir. He's dead. What, in your view, if anything, changes?
Well, it's a good day for the whole world that this particular terrorist who was responsible for planning the October 7 attack on Israel has met his just desserts. And I think it opens a lot of possibilities here. He was the best-known Hamas leader still in the fight in Gaza. There are a lot of Hamas leaders who are somewhere else in Doha and other places in the Middle East, although they may be going into hiding as we speak. So I think this presents Israel with an opportunity really to finish Hamas off in the Gaza Strip. And there's no way you ever get the people of the citizens of Gaza who are supposedly innocent of Hamas's activities, you never get them to normality until they can dream and they can see the possibility of a Gaza Strip without Hamas. So significantly here, this could be the beginning of the end of the Hamas threat. It doesn't end the other Iranian-backed threats to Israel, that's for sure. But this has real potential.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. He was eliminated. He was killed in Rafah, key southern city in Gaza. And this is what Kamala Harris said about Rafah earlier this year. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake.
A huge mistake, she said. Mr. Ambassador, we all know you've been critical of Donald Trump. I wonder who you think is best positioned to lead this country going forward, him or her, when it comes to the Middle East.
Neither one of them, frankly. I don't think either one is fit to be president. But I think what you just played from Vice President Harris shows the fundamental bankruptcy of the Biden administration approach. They were more worried about a wider war than they were about allowing Israel to eliminate the Hamas terrorist threat. There have been atrocities committed in the Gaza Strip because of Hamas using its fellow Palestinians as human shields, building a fort underground in Gaza and trying to use their own people to prevent Israel from exercising its legitimate right of self-defense. It cannot be that the terrorists get a veto over self-defense by committing another terrorist act, not against Israel, but against their fellow Palestinians. Yet that is Hamas's whole battle plan. And it's why when Israel says its goal is the elimination of Hamas politically and militarily, that's really the only acceptable outcome for people who want to end the terrorist threat.
Mr. Ambassador, when we look at this map and what presents, at least for President Biden right now, because he is the commander-in-chief, right? So you've got Ukraine, Israel, what's going on with the Houthi rebels in Yemen, Afghanistan, ISIS-K, possible invasion of Taiwan, North Korea, right? When you look at this map, sir, what do you see?
Well, I see a need for American leadership in the world, strong leadership with our allies to combat what is increasingly the threat from a Chinese-Russian axis. It's not fully formed yet, but it's certainly in working order. And these threats, as you run through Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, are connected by the fact of that axis. I think the Biden administration has shown weakness time and time again. I think our allies are worried, certainly in the Middle East and Eastern Europe and in East Asia. And you need a president who appreciates that America will not be safer if it withdraws from the world, if it retreats, if it looks for ways not to take on these adversaries, simply make the adversaries more emboldened.
Let me leave you with this. When you look at what's happening across the world right now, there are American troops all over this country, as you well know, and they are fathers, they are mothers, they are husbands, daughters, brothers, sisters, and on down the line. How should they be viewing the upcoming few years here, as you see it?
Well, I think they should be hoping that you have a president that dramatically increases the defense budget, that follows and understands what Ronald Reagan's peace through strength strategy entailed, that the best way to protect American interest and avoid war is being much stronger than your adversaries so that they're not even tempted to engage in aggression or the use of force for fear of the consequences. And right now, we are not feared in too many places.
Ambassador John Bolton, got to leave it there. Always nice to speak with you, sir, and thanks for being with us here on the Hill. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. All right. Meantime, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee as well, quick to react to the killing of Sinwar. Donald Trump, though, we haven't heard yet from him. Kelly Meyer, NewsNation Washington correspondent, covers the White House, covers the trail for us. Yeah. Joe, President Biden's overseas, Kamala Harris getting the microphone today. Yeah. No reaction really of any kind from Trump.
Yeah, and I was just checking in on his Truth Social or with his team just now in text just to make sure, but we haven't heard. He did put out a Truth Social not too long ago talking about the Al Smith dinner and his opponent, but nothing on Sinwar, which is interesting that we haven't heard from him yet. But we have heard from both President Biden and Kamala Harris. Biden in a statement at the same time that Kamala Harris came out and gave these rare remarks. She was on the road, on the campaign trail, and she did a meeting with students and then afterwards set up to deliver remarks about this. And she said that justice is served, and she talked about really where they go from here, how this is a moment that they can have this opportunity to get that ceasefire deal, to bring the hostages home, and that this kind of reignites that conversation. Let's listen to what else she had to say.
Today, there is clear progress toward that goal. Hamas is decimated, and its leadership is eliminated. This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza.
And, she also talked there about the U.S. involvement in the way of intelligence from the U.S. Special Ops that were involved in this. So that she kind of commended the U.S. part in taking Sinwar down, and also just, talked about the need to make sure we bring those hostages home and that those Americans that were killed have now some sense of justice.
Kelly Meyer, live for us tonight. Kelly, thank you. Appreciate it. Joining us now, Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute as well, joins us from the great state of Nevada. Hello, Chris. Nice to have you in. We were sitting next to each other yesterday, and I noticed when we were talking about the next commander-in-chief is going to have to deal with ISIS-K, I noticed out of the corner of my eye you nodded along, Chris. And I picked up on you noticing, this is a huge part of the equation that the next president of the United States is going to have to deal with. And I wonder what you think the world is before whoever is the next commander-in-chief.
Well, I think Kamala Harris, what we heard from her today, the way that she talked, the hard language, the celebration very nearly of the death of this terrorist, and talking about the American role in it, speaks to the closing argument she wants to make with voters, right? We don't talk very often about the fact that she would be the first woman to ever be the president of the United States. Are there voters out there who wonder whether or not she's tough enough? Is she strong enough? Is she experienced enough? Donald Trump beats her consistently on voter estimations about who's a strong leader, who does those kinds of things. Kamala Harris, in order to close the deal and win the presidency, has to convince voters that, and we heard it when she gave her acceptance speech at the Democratic National Convention, talked about the most lethal fighting force, most lethal military in the world. So this is a big part of the commander-in-chief job. And what you saw from her today was auditioning for that role.
Chris, DDHQ has this as a 50-50 coin flip at this point in time. I'm looking at swing state polling and all of it's tied. You're out there in Nevada, one of the key swing states, big Senate race there tonight. What's the state of the race as Chris Stirewalt sees it this evening?
Well, Nevada should be a lean for Harris. Donald Trump certainly could win in Nevada, but remember, we talk a lot about how the states have a nature, but they have a nature in relation to one another. Nevada is the most Democratic of the 7 swing states. North Carolina is the most Republican of the 7 swing states. Donald Trump could win here. If he wins here, that means he's on his way to running the table in all 7 swing states and maybe even winning the national popular vote, the first Republican to do so since 2004. But right now, you'd say that Kamala Harris has the advantage here in Nevada. So Sam Brown, as he gets on the stage tonight with the incumbent Jackie Rosen, has got to be making an appeal that a bunch of independents and even some Democrats can come over and vote for him. He needs a lot of ticket splitters, right? He needs everybody who's going to vote for Donald Trump, and then he needs some people who are going to vote for Kamala Harris. This is an opportunity for the Republicans to get to 53 seats, maybe 54. This is one of those seats that if the breeze is blowing in the Republicans' direction, it falls in line for them. But to do it, he'll need to convince voters in the persuadable middle. He's got a good biography. He's got a good story to tell. We'll see if he can execute tonight.
Chris Stirewalt out there in Nevada. I saw you with the shades earlier, my man. The sun must be dropping a little bit.
I was told they were forbidden on your show because it's a more serious show on the Hill, and I respect that. I respect the seriousness.
Not at all. Chris Steyerwalt live for us in Nevada this evening. Have fun, my man. Live in Las Vegas. Thank you, sir. Still to come. Here on the Hill, you got it. Drug cartels allowing members to shoot and kill Border Patrol agents. A NewsNation exclusive. What is happening along the southern border? Our Ali Bradley joins us. Plus, billionaires visiting swing states. And for that reason, Mark Cuban is out on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris. So too is Elon Musk, by the way. He's out stumping as well. And is the Secret Service beyond repair? What a brutal independent report says about that agency and what needs to happen at the top. I'm Blake Berman. The Hill is back in 4 minutes. Hello from Washington.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel.
Kamala Harris last night on Fox News during her interview there. Donald Trump, by the way, said about the Biden administration. Here's what he said on the record of his border record, yesterday at a Univision town hall.
The problem with this administration is they've totally lost control. It's the worst president and the worst vice president that we've ever had.
NewsNation has exclusively learned that some of the Mexican cartels are now declaring open season on U.S. border agents. Our Ali Bradley has been covering this story before anybody else. She joins us live once again along the border. Ali, your exclusive reporting tonight.
Yeah, hey, Blake. So it's kind of been like a long-standing agreement with the Mexican cartel. You don't shoot at Border Patrol agents because it's just bad for business. They'd be shut down, and they know it. But now we're seeing all this infighting within the Sinaloa cartel, and that's prompted Border Patrol response. And that has prompted Border Patrol, again, to be there, which causes issues for the cartel. The cartel giving permission to some of its members to shoot at Border Patrol because they're responding to this infighting, saying that the Border Patrol being there causes Mexican military, Mexican law enforcement to be there. They don't want that. So this alert originated out of the El Paso Sector Intelligence Center there, where they are alerting Border Patrol agents to remain cognizant of their surroundings. And if they encounter any cartel operatives, to approach them with extreme caution. Now, we did just get an exclusive statement from the House Homeland Security Committee where Representative Mark Green said, in part, quote, "We've long heard from Border Patrol agents that they face increased risks in the frontline jobs, and these reports are just further proof the cartels will stop at nothing to take what they want. Our Border Patrol agents deserve policies that will make their job easier. Unfortunately, Biden and Harris have given them the opposite." Now, Blake, just 2 days ago, ranch workers down here in the El Paso area, or in the Eagle Pass area, of the Del Rio sector, reported that they were shot at from the Mexican side. Now, there were no injuries reported. They don't know how many people were involved, but this is clearly an escalation of violence along the southern border, something that Border Patrol is on high alert about, Blake.
Well, our Ali Bradley, once again live on the border for us this evening. Ali, thank you. Meantime, Trump also addressed the border at a town hall targeting Latino voters last night.
So we want workers, and we want them to come in, but they have to come in legally. They have to love our country. They have to love you, love our people.
Joining me now, Aaron Perini is a Republican strategist. Adam Hodge is the former communications director for the DNC. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Nice to have you in.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday, indeed. Kamala Harris, tough interview last night. First time she was really pressed on the border. I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings. There's a lot of flipping from her on the border. Her interview last night, does she convince any moderate, any persuadable that she will actually be serious on the border?
Oh, absolutely.
How so?
Because, look, she talked about the first bill the Biden administration introduced was on immigration, right? She talked about the fact that they were trying to get a border bill done this year that would have been the toughest border bill that we've ever put forward, and that was endorsed by the Border Patrol itself. So, like, she talked about how she would sign that bill as president of the United States. Like,
but isn't there a big yada, yada, yada in the middle there, which is the 6.3 million crossings before the day one, which Democrats didn't get across the finish line And then when President Biden said, you know what, I got a problem, I got these executive actions that I'm going to take, or at least negotiate.
No, they've been strong and trying to help address the border issue from the very beginning. And let's not lose sight. The border crossings under the Trump administration were higher than they were during the Obama administration. So he also doesn't have a clean story to tell on his border actions. I think the key thing that voters want to hear is, what are you going to do for them if you're commander-in-chief? And that's why she's put forward a bold vision. You've seen her numbers tick up on immigration.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the spin there, because one communicator to another, masterful spin class.
Former Trump's campaign spokesperson, former DNC spokesperson, so let's go.
12 of the last 16 years, the White House has been held by Democrats. How much longer do you guys think you're going to need before you can get anything done when it comes to immigration? And when Kamala Harris talks about how she had a bill on day one, though, what was that bill? It was an amnesty piece of legislation, not about securing the border. It wasn't about making sure there were more agents or not vilifying them, or heck, even apologizing for akinning their work to slavery in the United States, which is what Kamala Harris has done. She vilifies border agents. She isn't actually doing the work that needs to be done. But Democrats want to use that and then the Langford bill as platitudes about securing the southern border.
Let me leave you with this, Aaron. You're right about the 12 out of the last 16, but Kamala Harris is also right. Quote, we've had a broken immigration system transcending Trump's administration. This is
exactly.
This is decades.
Yes,
right?
And Democrats have been at the helm in the United States with the presidency for 12 of the 16. And if we want to look at just the presidency of
let's go back. Lindsey Graham tried to do this in the Bush administration.
Let's go to A1 day one of Kamala Harris. The day that she decided she wanted to put forward that bill that was more focused on amnesty than it was on security.
Had millions of dollars.
More focused on amnesty day one than it was on anything else. What else did they do? They overturned over 90 executive actions that were done by the Trump administration to secure the southern border of the United States. So platitudes and talking points might sound good to Kamala Harris right now, but the American people, especially in polling, are saying they are not buying it.
They were pushing to put a bill. They were going to get it done. The reason why it didn't get done is because Donald Trump called and killed
it.
Then why the Border Patrol endorsed it?
Still much more ahead here on the Hill. They'll be back later in the show. A scathing report accuses the Secret Service of having a corrosive culture, and that another assassination attempt, they say, could happen again. Plus, 19 days away. The Trump campaign here on the other side about their strategy as they make a final push to Election Day. What do they make of today's report? That's with us here on the Hill. We're back here on the Hill on NewsNation. The Secret Service needs a major overhaul. That is according to a new report out today by an independent panel appointed by the Department of Homeland Security. They investigated the July 13th failed assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The panel called out a, quote, corrosive culture of trying to do too much with too little. And agents, they say, had a lack of coordination with local officials and a lack of speak-up culture, saying more agents did not adequately flag the shooter despite signs that he could be a threat. The acting Secret Service Director, Ronald Rowe, responded to the report saying progress is being made. Quote, we have already significantly improved our readiness and implemented enhanced protective operations for the former president and other protectees. Joining us now, Charles Marino, former Secret Service special agent, who has been here with us on the Hill throughout almost day after day, week after week, as more of these reports and stories come out. Charles, progress being made. Hello, nice to see you. What would you say to the head of the Secret Service after that being the response to this report?
Well, you know, Ron Rowe's got a little bit of a Kamala Harris problem for himself. He's talking about turning the page, but yet he's been part of the problem for the past 3.5 years, serving as deputy director while all of this was going on. Look, these are stinging words in this report for the Secret Service to have to read and hear. Bureaucratic, complacent. You brought up corrosive, all with the backdrop of a lack of critical thinking outlined in the report. But they needed to be said, and they needed to be heard by the agency. Change is needed, and it's needed quickly. And I'll tell you, the bluntness of this report is no surprise to me, having worked for Janet Napolitano for 3 years and also knowing Fran Townsend. These are straight shooters that call it as it is, like I try and do here each night for you. And that is, they know the importance of the Secret Service mission. They don't suffer a fool, and they believe in accountability. And that's what you see in terms of the tone of this overarching report. And it's hard to dispute the findings.
One of the interesting parts here, Charles, is this suggestion that money wouldn't just solve this. Can't buy love with money. Can't buy happiness with money. There's a lot of things you can't buy with money, but there's some things you can. A lot of things you can. And is the suggestion that simply money doesn't fix this, does that fly with you or no?
Well, it does. Certainly money wasn't what caused the problems in Butler, Pennsylvania, or in Florida on that golf course. It was the Secret Service choice to staff the detail of the former president according to his title, as opposed to properly resourcing to the threat level. Look, ultimately down the line, the Secret Service needs to be self-sufficient. They need to be able to sustain their own operations. So that means moving the Secret Service from a mindset and operation of a local police precinct to that of a Fortune 500 company. That's always been their problem. There has been a lack of big thinking in the areas of technology and becoming this dynamic agency to meet the dynamic threat environment. So ultimately, they need to get there. But right now, I agree with that. Money is not the issue. And by the way, is the leadership in place to know what to do with that money when and if it comes?
Charles Marino, former Secret Service special agent. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, sir. Charles Marino,
Blake,
back here on the Hill. Appreciate it. You got it. Meantime, the threats facing former President Trump and the ability of the Secret Service are key concerns facing some in the Trump campaign. Joining us now is Corey Lewandowski. He is a senior advisor to the campaign. He joins us live, I am told, on a bus tour in the state of North Carolina. Corey, nice to see you. Buckle up. Here we go. Thanks for being back with us here on the Hill.
You bet.
There was a report out about a week or so ago that the Trump campaign had asked for more resources, more assets, specifically military assets with aircraft to secure and help provide Donald Trump with the safety he needs. I know you are not going to get into the details, so I won't ask you. Let me put it this way to you. Have all the security concerns from the campaign's perspective been allayed?
Well, listen, what have we seen recently? We've seen 2 attempts on the president's life, both of which have been thwarted. We've seen an individual in California bring firearms to a rally with a fake VIP pass. And so, listen, we are grateful for the work of the men and women of the U.S. Secret Service. That being said, this team has asked for all of the assets that the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States are entitled to.
Have you gotten it?
And so that includes military aircraft. Look, that includes military aircraft and hardened vehicles for the staff that are traveling. So that has not occurred yet. I can tell you that a number of friends in Congress have continued to ask this administration to provide some of those resources, and it hasn't been done yet. Joe Biden has said publicly, Donald Trump is entitled to every single asset that he is entitled to. So if that is the case, why is Donald Trump not flying around on a plane that says United States of America on it?
So you think he should be on a military aircraft right now?
If the threats that they have told us are as severe as they are, and we know that there has been a number of threats against Donald Trump, specifically from the nation of Iran because of what he has done to them, then absolutely he should be given every resource the U.S. government has available to it.
All right, you're out on the campaign trail. You're in North Carolina. As I mentioned, Donald Trump doing the Al Smith dinner tonight in New York. Kamala Harris is in Wisconsin. She was joined by Mark Cuban, billionaire, Shark Tank fame. Here's what he said. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Did Mexico pay for that wall? Hell no, you said it wrong. Hell no. That's what I'm talking about.
Hell no, he says about Mexico paying for the wall. He's right.
Look,
how would you respond to Mark Cuban?
Look, Mark is not right. Mark has said he wants a job in the next administration. I know Mark very well. He was a Donald Trump sycophant in 2016. He came to the events. He wanted to be part of the administration when he got shut out like so many others. He turned the other way, and now he's trying to say that he's a Kamala Harris supporter because he wants to be the head of the SEC, of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, listen, people can vote any way they want to. Mark Cuban is entitled to his own opinion, but the bottom line is there's only one candidate in this race that's going to make Americans' lives better, and that's Donald John Trump.
Kamala Harris last night, of course, gave that interview on Fox News. She was asked about the direction of the country. Here's what she said, and I'll ask you about it on the other side.
It has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward.
She was asked about the direction of the country, and that was part of her response. The recent Marquette Law poll, Corey, as you know, said that 79% of the country feels that we are headed in the wrong direction. If that was how she responded to it, I guess I could ask you on the other side, if 79% of the country feels that that we're headed in the wrong direction, why is this a 50-50 coin flip race at this point in time? Shouldn't Donald Trump be out even further ahead if that's how the country feels? And what does it say about him?
Well, what it says is that the members of the mainstream media are basically Democrat propagandists who've been propping her up after she's been coronated by the Democratic Party to take this election over. So listen, she pushed Joe Biden out. She's never had to answer the question when she realized he wasn't cognitively available to continue to run this country. She's never been pushed back on anything until this interview that she just gave. And the truth is, 80% of the American people don't agree on anything except the fact that this country is moving in the wrong direction. So it's time for new leadership. If she wanted to fix this country, she's had 3.5 years to do that. She hasn't been able to do it. And now it's time to make our country safe and secure again by finishing the border wall and providing economic relief to every person in America.
I know you point your finger at the media for it, but the reality is it's polling at 79% wrong direction. And yet this is a 50-50 coin flip when thousands upon thousands of Americans have been surveyed at this point. So again, what are they saying about Trump?
Look, here's what they're saying. Give Donald Trump the opportunity again to provide economic relief to every American family and safety and security for those families. Donald Trump believes in a smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation. That means that every person, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, or gender, gets to benefit from the Donald Trump policies. And in addition to that, if you care about safety and security, national security, or homeland security, Donald Trump will finish the wall that he started, which Kamala Harris called a vanity project, and he'll make sure our allies around the world, including Israel, are protected and have the resources they need to be successful.
Corey, let me leave you with this. I was just handed an article from the Associated Press moments ago. Here's the headline, quote, battleground, because you're in North Carolina right now. Battleground North Carolina sees strong early voting despite obstacles created by Helene. Obviously, North Carolina, parts of Western North Carolina, absolutely devastated. You're there in the state. Does the Trump campaign have any concerns after day one of anything that it's seen out in the western part of the state or in North Carolina as it relates to voting?
We're here on the bus in just outside of Raleigh, the Raleigh Rally. This is our fourth stop of the day. We have seen hundreds of people who have already voted. Today's the first day of voting in the state of North Carolina. So these people are very energized. Our numbers are fantastic. We saw what they look like in Georgia as well on the first day of voting. So we have no reservations about what's transpiring right now in this great state.
Any concerns with Helene or no?
No, none. Listen, the people in the state of North Carolina are going to be given the opportunity to vote in any part of the state as long as they can prove their residency. That's going to work for us, and Donald Trump's going to win North Carolina again.
Corey Lewandowski, thank you for the time, sir. Safe travels there in North Carolina. Catch you again soon here on The Hill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got it. All right, meantime, coming up here on The Hill, another flip-flop for Kamala Harris over a black-tie Catholic charity dinner tonight. Initially, she said she wasn't going to go. Now she says she'll do it virtually. Is that the right move? Plus, it's the battle of the billionaires. You just heard me talking about Mark Cuban. He's out on the trail for Kamala Harris. The world's wealthiest man, Elon Musk, getting in on the action in Pennsylvania, too. What is going on? With the full panel. After the break, you're watching The Hill. Stay with us.
NewsNation tonight. The one and only Bill O'Reilly joins Chris live for a special night of Cuomo. His hot takes on the state of the presidential race. Tonight on Cuomo at 8/7 Central. Then don't miss the Nevada Senate debate. You'll only see these candidates take the stage on NewsNation at 10/9 Central.
Behind every small business, there is an entrepreneur who gave up almost everything to be able to start that business, who dreamed of a better future for their family. The Trump that stole Christmas, the Grinch, will crush those dreams if elected.
All right, welcome back to The Hill. That, of course, the Shark Tank star and billionaire businessman Mark Cuban taking jabs at former President Donald Trump in Wisconsin. A little while ago, Cuban slamming Trump's tariff plans and how he says it could hurt small businesses. Meantime, in Pennsylvania, the world's wealthiest man hitting the campaign trail, Elon Musk. He is a supporter of President Trump. He is kicking off the first of a series of talks through the Keystone State.
Donald Trump has to win this election. The most important thing that you can do, and what I'm asking everyone to do, is make sure that you're registered to vote.
Full panel here with me now. Linda Tran is a former senior advisor to Pete Buttigieg. Denise Gitsham, NewsNation political contributor, Republican strategist. Aaron Perini is a Republican strategist. Adam Hodge, former communications director at the DNC. Hello to you all. Nice to have you in. Great crew. Beautiful sunset here behind us, which we were just talking about. 2 billionaires out on the trail. 19 days to go. Why?
To quote the great James Carville, it's the economy, stupid.
So people look up to billionaires.
Of course, exactly. And we know that the place where Kamala Harris's campaign has in particular been working to make gains and gain ground on is on the economy. And so having Mark Cuban out there, a billionaire, successful man, talking about how her policies will benefit business and the economy is an important message to get out.
But to be clear, people care a lot more about what Elon says than what Mark Cuban says.
It's a different kind of... So Mark Cuban is amazingly, unbelievably successful.
Yes.
Elon Musk is a revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's a different level. That's not political, by the way. That's just...
And a very astute observer told me right before I came on tonight that the last time Mark Cuban did anything meaningful in the business world, it was in the late 90s. But listen, Elon has a following of 155 million Twitter followers. Cuban has one of 8 million. The influence level is totally different. But let's look at past actions. When
Do you think the influence level is different?
Oh, absolutely it's different. Elon Musk is like a legend in society. Mark Cuban is known for being on the Shark Tank, but when has he done anything that's actually changed the world and the way we think about the world?
Advantage Republicans here? Or no?
Well, look, we know that this campaign is going to be fought down to the wire. And so what the campaign is trying to do is to give permission, as we've talked about before, with Liz Cheney, with those disaffected Republicans who may not know exactly what they want to do quite yet, but this gives them a chance to come into the fold, come into the Harris.
But no one's buying it. Listen, I'm from California, and I know how hard it is to start a small business and run one in California under someone like Kamala Harris and the people who think like her. And I can tell you that it is very hard for someone who comes from a business background to respect people who've never done it for themselves. Nobody has ever confused Kamala Harris as a pro-business candidate. And Donald Trump has always been seen as a pro-business.
Billionaires all over the place on both sides. Have a list of them here. What's interesting to me, Aaron and Adam, is Elon Musk, world's wealthiest man, one of the most well-known people on the planet because of it and his companies. He's been in Pennsylvania, and then Pennsylvania, and then Pennsylvania some more. And what's the most important state in this election? Pennsylvania. So there's clearly a trend there.
Yes. I have to believe that there's got to be some data or analytics that sits internally within one of the super PACs that Elon is so generously funding on the Republican side.
Generously funding.
Yes.
75 million.
Yeah. Just trying to keep it casual. Yeah. That says he would be most successful in delivering a message in Pennsylvania. Keep him there, send him there. They believe that's the persuadable audience that this works best with. And I want to respect the fact that both of these guys are incredibly successful of their own rights.
Any of us would take it.
And I mean this with all the respect for what they've been able to do in their career, other than the money that Elon is spending on the ground and at doors, which we'll have to see what that actually looks like come Election Day and the net value on that, their endorsements mean absolutely nothing in this election. And I mean that with all of the respect in my heart. No one's going to be like, ooh, Elon Musk is for Donald Trump. Now I'm on the team.
Is it permission, though?
No, I don't think Mark Cuban's permission because he's considered by pop culture standard left-leaning anyways. Mm-hmm. He's more of the Popovich group than he is of the Elon Musk group. So, of course, people aren't going to think that he's somehow going to bring people over, that's an excuse for Republicans to vote for Kamala.
I think one of the most effective things that he did there, though,
was
Mark Cuban.
Okay.
Was talk about Trump's tariff plans and how terrible they would be for the economy. Right? He can speak and has the credibility of being a businessman, someone who has tried to import goods, to poke holes clearly in the fact that we all know China does not pay 60% tariffs. It's on the American people, on the middle class. And so I thought he was an effective attack dog for the Harris campaign on the economy.
So why isn't he turning his attacks on this administration right now, given that we've talked about this many times on the show?
Because the stock market's at record price.
But tariffs are something 4%. That Biden campaigned against Trump on, and then he not only embraced them, he tripled down on many of them. So if we're going to talk about what this administration is doing, Kamala Harris currently in the White House is doing, it's in support of all these things that Mark Cuban is saying are bad.
I can spread a little bit of clarity on this because I was at the U.S. Trade Representative's office. The difference is that we also invested in the economy. We also have an infrastructure law.
But then don't talk about tariffs in isolation.
You can't do them in isolation. That's the problem.
Here's what I wonder about Mark Cuban. What do you think his end goal is here? He said head of the SEC. He's a big crypto guy.
I mean, I don't know that anybody's picking anybody for any jobs at this point. Okay. I think he's out there trying to help Kamala Harris. And
what's the end goal here?
I think he is definitely just trying to make sure that Kamala Harris wins.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right. Meantime, it's an election tradition that Vice President Harris isn't participating in, at least not not fully, I guess you could say. The vice president skipping tonight's annual Al Smith dinner in person in New York City, making her the first candidate to do so since 1984. Instead, she is sending a pre-recorded video. Virtual video, I guess you could say. The dinner has been a candidate favorite for years, raising money for Catholic charities along with lighthearted roasts. Here's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton back in 2016.
In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me."
It's amazing I'm up here after Donald. I didn't think he'd be okay with a peaceful transition of power.
All right, so you see the lightness there. Mistake for her not to go in person?
No, I mean, look, this campaign season is nothing if not unprecedented.
Okay.
And in these final days, with the shortest campaign in history, she needs to be doing exactly what she's doing, which is out there in the battlegrounds.
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's nobody who's going to vote she's going to win at the Al Smith dinner. She's going to win a lot more votes being in La Crosse and Erie and Pennsylvania.
The reason this is the shortest campaign season ever is because Democrats decided to kick the sitting president of the United States off the ballot and decide to throw the rules to the window and put Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. That aside, she won't lose any votes for this, but breaking precedent doesn't help her.
There are 52 million Catholics comprising 20% of the U.S. population. I think that whenever you miss an opportunity to go after people that you've been courting, like people of faith, which you've heard in her rhetoric, it's a huge missed opportunity.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Leland Vittert, host of On Balance, on the other side of the break when The Hill on NewsNation returns. Stay with us. All right, welcome back here to The Hill on NewsNation. Just a few hours from now, the Nevada Senate candidates Jackie Rosen and Sam Brown will take to the debate stage in Las Vegas for their first and only debate in one of the closest watched Senate races. The Democratic candidate, Rosen, currently leads the GOP challenger, Brown, by over 7 points, according to the DDHQ polling averages. You can watch the debate here on NewsNation, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, later this evening. Host of On Balance, Leland Vittert, joins me now from the middle of it all in Las Vegas tonight. Leland, I found a lot of these debates fascinating. Pennsylvania last night, you had the two guys going at it. Texas, there was a huge back and forth on transgender rights. Virginia, the sitting Democratic senator couldn't name one company that's price gouging. You never know what you're going to get at these things.
You don't, and that's what makes him so interesting and so important. And I think, Blake, if we're going to go back and